All right, welcome to Fumble Fever. I'm Micah.
I'm Dylan.
And if you didn't get a chance to check out our last video, you should definitely go do that. We gave our predictions for the Final Four with the first playoff polls coming out next week. A lot of good stuff in that video. Make sure you check that out after you check out this one.
Definitely.
Right now, we are going to talk about Week 10 coming up. We got a lot of good games as usual, and we're going to start in the Pac-12 where Oregon's taking on USC.
I see Oregon in this one pretty big. Their offense is just going to be too much for them. USC, they're not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, and I'm going to take Oregon as well. A big game as well for Oregon, and a game that Oregon needs pretty desperately. They still technically have a shot at the playoff race, so they need to try and keep that alive. They have to win out from here on out, and they could end up being somewhat forgiving of that Auburn loss to open the season. If they are to get to the Pac-12 championship.
That's definitely the best time to lose is early.
Yeah, the very first game is always the best to lose, so there is a little bit of hope, if you will, if you're a Duck fan. And with the roller coaster that we've seen USC on lately, I don't have any reason to not go with Oregon. But they do have another Pac-12 foe that has another shot also at the playoff in Utah, sitting at number 9 in the nation. They're going to be taking on Washington, who is unranked at home. Who you got?
I got Utah. It's going to be closer than the other Pac-12 game between Oregon and USC. But I think Utah, they're going to run all over Washington pretty much.
Yeah.
They're going to wear them down. Probably about 160 yards for that one running back, and then pull away late in the fourth.
Right. Utah, by the way, has been outscoring their opponents a tremendous amount over the past 4 or 5 weeks, and that's basically, as you reiterate every week, defense. Your defense is going to be very prevalent in this game. They're going to have to force Jacob Eason to pass the ball. I think that Utah is going to be able to do that, and I think that Utah is going to come away with a win, but closer than the experts think. Now, if we can skip over to the other side of the coast and into the ACC, there's actually a fairly good matchup going on between North Carolina and Virginia, which could end up one of these two teams playing in the Coastal. I know week in and week out it's constantly changing in the Coastal race, but these are two of the stronger teams in the Coastal right now. Who you got?
I got Virginia.
Okay.
Their defense is way too good.
Yeah, I'm going to go opposite of you. I'm going to go with North Carolina. I think North Carolina's at home, and I think that it's a toss-up game. If you looked at the point spread, I think North Carolina was favored by like 1.5, which is basically saying it's a tie. And given those tiebreaker situations, I like what I've seen from the Tar Heels.
I do love North Carolina's quarterback too, though.
Sam Howell? Yeah.
He's really good, but
he has been impressive, yeah.
I still think Virginia's corners are just going to pretty much lock down their receivers most of the game.
Yeah, that should actually be an interesting matchup because I think that's a very talented wide receiver core for North Carolina, and like you said, some talented corners on the other side for Virginia.
Probably one of the best for Virginia.
And underrated, and not a team that a lot of people have a lot of exposure to see on a day in, day out basis. So something to interesting matchup in game to watch for there. But I guess at the end of the day, I'm thinking, who do you actually picture having better quarterback play between Sam Howell and Bryce Perkins? Because we all know what Bryce Perkins can do.
Sam Howell definitely, but I just think Virginia's defense is way better, or not way better, but just above or a good bit above North Carolina's, but
above North Carolina enough to get the W.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand. I'm gonna say that Sam Howell has a better game than Bryce Perkins as well. I think Bryce Perkins actually been trending down as the years progressed. The only iffy thing for me with North Carolina is the fact that if it's a close game, they've gotten to a habit of liking to lose
Mhm.
at the very last second and fighting hard in the fourth quarter and make it look like they're on a comeback to win the game.
Mhm.
But I almost
I mean
feel
that goes all the way back to last year.
yeah,
too.
it really does. It's been a solid almost
2
full 2
years.
years now of them doing that every single game.
Because like,
Heartbreaker.
we said this before, but they could have went 9-3 last year too.
Mhm. And they
It's-
could have been almost undefeated right
Mhm.
now, and we could have been talking about a whole nother story. But I actually think that not only that North Carolina comes out with a win here,
Mhm.
I actually believe that North Carolina comes out of the Coastal and ends up playing Clemson in a rematch at the end of the season. Yeah.
Who would you see winning that one?
In the rematch,
Yeah.
I would have Clemson.
Me too.
I would have
Yeah.
Clemson because they would be much more ready
Mhm.
for North Carolina at that point, and they would have had all this time to prepare and form their craft. And they formed their craft over, especially last game, a lot against Boston College.
Definitely.
They had you could see a major improvement because of the fact of how they started utilizing
Yeah,
ETN.
they looked really good.
Yeah, they did. They did.
I was
They did look
impressed.
solid. I was as well. But if just thinking about North Carolina and Virginia here, it is anybody's race in the Coastal, and it will be interesting to see who actually does end up playing Clemson at the end of the year. Now, we have a couple more big-time matchups, really big matchups. I'm going to actually start with you. The game that College Game Day is, which is SMU and Memphis. SMU, number 15 in the nation, first time since 1985,
Mhm.
somewhere in that range,
Yeah,
85, 84, yeah, 85. So Memphis at home.
Mhm.
How's that game going to go?
I see the upset. I see SMU pulling off the upset
Yeah.
against Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
This offensive power is just too much for Memphis. It's still gonna be close,
Yeah.
but I see probably about 35-31 in that area.
Okay, sure.
It's gonna be last second pretty much,
Yeah.
last drive.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. I think I'm excited
definitely.
for it. I think hopefully a lot of people are excited, and if you're not excited,
be.
you should be.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be the first time that they've been in
Game
Memphis,
days, yep.
that Game Day's been in Memphis, and it's just overwhelmingly exciting in general just to see SMU at the point to where they're at now and to have that stage set. The question is, can SMU handle that stage, you know?
Mm-hmm. And Memphis, they have a really good fan base. Most people don't know, but they
Mhm.
really do have
They do.
They have a pretty good fan base.
They do. And SMU getting a fan base now.
Uh-huh.
They haven't had one for the past about 35 plus years,
Mhm.
but they are working on that now. With the interesting thing, I believe you had alluded to a joke online earlier about how with the death penalty and everything, now here we are 30-something years later, and it's starting to become pretty soon legal to pay players. They already had passed that in California. Now it looks like NCAA starting to jump on the board. It's just kind of, I don't know if irony is the best word for it, but interesting to say the least that here SMU is, they finally got back on their own thing, and it might be here pretty soon. They could actually pay the players and it not be such a big deal, and we would have never had this discussion to start with. But that's another topic for another day, of course. As far as the actual game goes, I'm going to have to go with SMU as well. And I think that the funny thing is, the only reason that SMU would be an upset pick is just because of the fact that we're not used to seeing SMU in this situation.
Yeah,
so it's hard to
Vegas
say how they're
doesn't
going
know
to
how-
handle it. Yeah, Vegas doesn't know how to really go with that. And we'll probably see that.
And it's a surprising amount of points too. It's almost 7 points, 6.5.
For Memphis,
Yeah,
6.5.
for Memphis.
Yeah. And I think that's going to slide. I think it's going to go up. I think it's going to go down. I think they normally do anyways. But I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this game. And it's one that I'm certainly interested in. And another big game, though, that a lot of people, especially in this area, are always interested in every year, no matter how the rankings go, is
World's largest cocktail party.
the world's largest cocktail party between Florida and Georgia. This is basically the East, the
Pretty
SEC
much, yeah.
East. Yeah.
I got they're both really good defenses, but I think Florida's defense is a little bit better than Georgia's.
Yeah.
So I see Florida pulling this one.
Okay. I get iffy when we start agreeing a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But I'm leaning towards Florida because of the past few weeks, because of the disappointing play that I've seen for Georgia, and because of the overwhelmingly just phenomenal play, like above expectations for me, that I've seen for Florida throughout this course of the entire year. I
Wasn't
am
expecting it at all.
not expecting that at all, and that's the type of stuff that, when it's a rivalry game anyways, a big time rivalry game between two teams that literally hate each other, anything could happen anyways. So if there's a time for me to go ahead and start pulling the trigger with Florida and thinking that they could get that W, it's now. The only thing, I guess, perhaps stopping them is just the fact that Georgia's got to be hungry right now. They've got to be fairly ticked off with how they handled a loss to South Carolina. Not so great week after that against Kentucky.
It was raining, but they finally put it together and
right
right the ship.
Well, I mean, 0-0 in the third quarter.
Yeah, you really can't.
That's not flying on my boat, honestly. But either way, disappointing.
Yeah. I agree with you.
What was you gonna say?
But I mean, Georgia's really not built to score points fast, anyways, because they run, play action, then throw.
Which I hate. It's one of the things I hate right now because that's not what they should be doing. That's what Kirby Smart wants to do, and he's continue doing it, even though he shouldn't be because it's not working. And it's the play calling. Whoever
very predictable.
Yeah, it's very predictable. You already know exactly what Georgia's going to do, and if you give Florida that type of knowledge, they're going to eat that up all day.
Definitely.
And they're going to rattle Jake Fromm like crazy.
Yeah, because South Carolina, they pretty much did the same thing. They were all over me pretty much all day.
Yeah, because once they knew that, hey, we're going to run it, and then we're going to be in a third and long situation, and Jake Fromm's like, all right, well, now I got to go deep. I got to make something happen. It's going to be bad. Every time he's going to throw up picks, and especially against Florida's
secondary. One of the best in the country.
Absolutely one of the best in the country, and that's just seems to be trending that that's the way that it's going to happen. Parts of me still kind of iffy. I just have some kind of weird feeling that Georgia could pull it out, but I'm using my brain here. My brain and my gut too, both kind of telling me Florida. So we'll see what happens. That's actually it for the games that we have today. But we do have our upset specials for you. And you want to go first with yours?
Yeah, I got Kansas over Kansas State.
Wow.
Kansas State, it's gonna be a hangover from Oklahoma. They're still gonna be partying from that.
Yeah, and ranked for the first time this season. Okay. I like what Kansas State, by the way, has done so far this season. They've surprised me. They came completely out of nowhere. I've been very disappointed with Kansas, but you never know. It's another one of those rivalry games.
Oh, yeah. And they're better than they were in the last 10 years, at least.
Okay, Kansas. The last 10 years, yeah, you're right about that. For my upset special, I'm going to go with Colorado. They're actually about a 6.5 point underdog to UCLA, which
it's surprising.
It was very surprising. That's why it immediately jumped out to me, because anytime that I see UCLA as a favorite, I think something's wrong, especially this year, the way that I've seen them play. I know Colorado's hit some bumps in the road, and they have not looked great the past 3 weeks, really. They haven't.
But they blew out Arizona State last week. Right. UCLA did.
Yeah. That might be part of what's going on, but I still don't have enough with me for UCLA to say that Colorado shouldn't get that W, and I think Colorado's going to do it.
Okay.
Well, we'll see how all this goes. We'll be keeping our eye on it. We'll be tweeting about it. If you follow us on Fumble Fever on Twitter, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to Fumble Fever on YouTube, and we thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you.